Hi guys, and welcome to another video. So recently I did upload a video containing my Sunderland team of the decade. Now within the comments of that video there was a suggestion for me to do Sunderland's worst team of the decade, and I really liked that idea as well. And believe it or not, well, it's probably not too hard to believe, it was probably a lot more difficult to assemble this team together simply because we have been treated, or mistreated you should say, to a lot of garbage over the last decade, particularly in terms of bad players. Now, to be honest, in the starting 11, there's probably some players that have been worse than others. There's probably arguments, well, there is an argument for every single position for other players that have been worse than ones that I've put in, but I've literally just had to pick some of them. For some positions, I've literally had about 7 players to go in one position, and I've literally just had to pick them at random. But you will all agree with me when I say that every single one of these players are garbage. And if you argue with me, then you're on a different planet, unfortunately. So, of course, we start off with the goalkeeper position, and we have had absolutely terrible goalkeepers, particularly in the Championship season, where we was treated to the likes of Jason Steele. We had Reuter, who, to be fair, out of the 3, which I'm going to mention because the third one is the one that is going to go in goal and probably the easiest out of them all, is Lee Camp. But Reuter, out of those 3, I probably like the most, just because he seemed like a decent guy. Steele was terrible, but Camp was just on an absolutely other level. This man, it just frustrates me so much because he's been doing it for so many clubs where he makes countless mistakes, and they're all comical errors. You could fill a full DVD box set with errors just singling out Lee Camp. He is that bad. And yet he is still finding himself as Birmingham's #1. It absolutely dumbfounds me because there's so many keepers, even at the level that Sunderland are at now in League One, who are so much better than Lee Camp, and he would have earned a shit ton throughout his career. So for me, he's just a thief. And I'm jealous because if I was shit at my job, I'd get sacked, yet he's terrible at his job and gets paid thousands a week. So Lee Camp is my #1. Now, I've gone with 4 across the back, and again, there's been plenty of really bad defenders. So some of them you might think, oh, you've missed out him, but believe me, it's harder than it looks. So the back 4. For the centre-backs, I will start off with one that's probably a little bit harsh because he was tailing off towards the end of his career, but nevertheless, whilst he was with us, he was terrible, and that is Glenn Loovens. Now, again, I know a lot of people actually quite liked him, strangely, but, you know, he did seem like a lovely guy. Probably is a nice guy. He came in as an experienced centre-back when we did go down to League One, but he was terrible. I've never seen a slower defender in my life, and his legs are like jelly. He's like Bambi on ice, and he really was a poor defender. Hats off to him. He's had a very good career, but he came to us at probably a bad time of his career and probably should have retired the season before that. But for me, yeah, Loovens was bad. He was bad. And alongside him as his centre-back partner is Clark Salter, who we did sign on loan throughout our Championship season. And again, he was garbage. He was absolute garbage. He was either getting sent off, making constant mistakes, and he was just a really bad player. For a player who he's had times at Chelsea and what have you, we expected a lot more of a classier defender than what we did get, because what we did get was utter shit from Clark Salter, a really bad defender. So those two in front of Lee Camp, they're conceding a lot of goals already, but we've got some reinforcements because at left back, we have another player who we did bring in on loan during the Championship season, and that is Brendan Galloway, who is, again, an awful player. I can't reiterate that enough. He's a bad player. He's a bad player. He was constantly getting caught out. His positional awareness was awful. He offered no forward threat either from the left-back position. So for me, he was useless in all sense of the word because, he comes as a young lad. He'd played at Everton, been at West Brom. Again, you think that he'd have something about him, but for me, every time I saw him in a Sunderland shirt, I saw nothing but a weak, positionally unaware defender, and it was really bad. Now, to the right back position, where I did again struggle, I'm going to keep repeating myself in that sense. At right back, I was very close to considering, or I did consider, Marco Anglieri, because I thought he was a terrible defender for us. I think it was quite a few years ago now when he did play for us, but it is another defender who strangely did rack up around 40 plus appearances for us in just the space of a season or two, and that is Santiago Virgini, because he, although he did somehow rack up the amount of caps he did, he was also terrible. And those own goals that he scored as well, I can't remember who we were playing, was it Southampton? I can't remember who we were playing now, but the 2 own goals that he did score, those were iconic, and that is why he is going in this back four to make it the worst back four of the decade in a Sunderland shirt. So yeah, that's probably a little bit harsh on Virginie, but he wasn't very good, was he? He just wasn't very good. Now, I'm going to go for sort of 2 holding midfielders to fit the system that I want and to fit the players that I want, these brilliantly terrible players. And first off, again, you might consider this to be a little bit harsh, but I do have reasoning behind every selection. I have gone with Didier Ndong. Now, of course, we did pay a record transfer fee for Didier Ndong. We did have the option to go for Jan Villa and to get him at a cut price as well. And we went with Didier Ndong, and we got relegated the following season. He played a few games in the Championship where he was just as bad, didn't look like he was any levels above the Championship, and what a waste of money he was. So for me, because we paid so much money for him, which is just stupid on our part anyway, and he was nowhere near the levels of Jan Villa, who he was kind of almost his replacement, and he didn't even touch, not even nearly touch the levels that Jan Villa could. So Didier Ndong, you shit. And next to him, you could probably guess this one, and he is the captain of this worst Sunderland team of the decade, and that is Jack Rodwell. We did whip out 10 million for this man. He looked like he had a promising career. He obviously started with Everton and then to Manchester City. It didn't work out well for him. He was a bit of a bench warmer there. He came to us and I thought, yes, we're going in the right direction here. Little did we know that we have just purchased the player with probably the worst attitude known to man. This guy, when on the pitch, was terrible. He couldn't string a pass together. We didn't win a game up until, I think it was really further on in his Sunderland career. We hadn't won a game for years where Rodwell has started, which just shows, he's just useless. He was garbage. And then later on in his Sunderland career, did we quickly notice how bad his attitude was? It was shown in the documentary Sunderland Till I Die, where he was practically faking injuries, refusing to play, yet he was still sitting on a massive wage, even though we did offer him an out of his contract because he was saying he wanted to revive his England career, which he's never had. But yeah, and he just still refused to play, but wanted that contract still, and luckily he is no longer with the club. And another player who is somehow still getting contracts here, there and everywhere is currently at Sheffield United now. How do you manage that? He's in a top 10 club right now. How the hell has Jack Rodwell managed that? His agent is a genius. But now as the sort of number 10 behind sort of 3 strikers is also a relatively controversial one, because this lad did have a lot of potential and he's shown tiny glimpses of it, but I think because everyone had such high expectations of the lad and how badly it did turn out for him at Sunderland, that's why he's on this list, and that is Adnan Januzaj. And, again, he did end up having a decent song, but what he did in reality at Sunderland was nothing. He was crap. He came in with a high pedigree. He was a youngster from Man United. We just got David Moyes. Obviously, he had played under Moyes before. Moyes gave him his chance at United, I believe. He came on loan to us. It was all exciting. I think he scored 1 goal in the League Cup. And then other than that, he did nothing. He was so spineless and gutless. He was weak as piss. He was getting pushed around all over the place. He tried too many tricks. Lyndon Gooch is better than him. I will say that. Lyndon Gooch is better than Januzaj, and he was so overrated. With any Man United squad at the time, of course, you're going to get service, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. But he was crap. In an average Sunderland team, he was shit. Anyway, he didn't even stand out above the rest. So for me, because it was such a letdown when I was expecting so much more from the lad, I've had to put Januzaj in there. I do apologise to people who were a fan of him, but in reality, he was shit. But now to the front 3, the magical front 3, or the terrible front 3. We do have Ashley Fletcher, who played for us during the Championship season. He just could not score a goal to save his life. I mean, I think he ended up getting a couple for us or something like that. But on the whole, he was missing sitter after sitter after sitter. And, of course it was a crap team that we had or at least a really underperforming team we had in the Championship anyway. But he did get chances, the lad, but he just could not score to save his life. So, on the whole, he really wasn't very good, was he? Now, also up there, another player from the Championship season is Mr. James Vaughan, who also, when we brought him in, I think he was the only player that we actually paid money for in that transfer window into the Championship, and we thought, yeah, okay, he's got a bit of experience, he's a bit of a hard man, he's a big brute up top who can get us goals in the Championship, and he was anything but that. He was absolutely shit. He couldn't run with the ball, couldn't shoot, couldn't score, couldn't pass, couldn't do anything, the lad. So unfortunately, Vaughan finds himself in my Sunderland worst team of the decade as well. But the last one, the final piece to the jigsaw, is Danny Graham, who becomes somewhat of a meme and a bit of a cult hero because he was just that shit. But I think the only goal he did score for us was the goal against Everton, where it basically bounced off his knee, and he basically didn't mean to do it. But other than that, you know, we got him from Swansea. He was a bit of a goal poacher there. He got plenty of goals. And then for us, he just could not score to save his life. He really couldn't. You know, probably nice man, as I say. I mean, they're all probably nice men, apart from Rodwell. But but Danny Graham, he's on the list, and I think I'm more than right to do so. But for the manager, I will select the manager now. And Jesus Christ, do we have some shit managers to go through. But the one that I am going to go with is David Moyes. David Moyes, he just tried to get all the Everton boys back together from frigging 10 years before that, 15 years before that, and thought that he might be able to recreate what he got at Everton, but in reality he brought in a load of old lads from Everton and got us relegated. So, yeah. So David Moyes will be leading this terrible, terrible team out, and here is a recap of it. We have Camp in goal, we have Virginie, Louvens, Clocksalter and Galloway across the back. We have Rodwell and Ndong in the middle with Januzaj just in front of them. We have Ashley Fletcher, Danny Graham and Vaughan up top as well, with of course David Moyes, the manager. What a lethal 11 that would be. Now, as I said earlier, guys, there's plenty of players that I missed off the list that could have easily slipped into this 11, but I had to pick someone. So it'd be really interesting to see what your guys' Sunderland worst 11 of the decade will be. Make sure you let me know in the comments down below. But if you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already to become a fully fledged member of the Sarny Army. But for now, you take care and stay jammed.